The Jiaolong Special Operations Team members traveled back to the fiery Ming Dynasty, facing fierce and ruthless enemies, ignorant and selfish courtiers, and sinister foreigners. Keywords of the novel. Returning to the Ming Dynasty. Returning to the mountains and rivers without a pop-up window, returning to the Ming Dynasty. Returning to the mountains and rivers. Download the complete TXT collection, and reading the latest chapters of Returning to the Ming Dynasty. Returning to the mountains and rivers. Chapter 1. Doubts about the Gulf of Aden. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Doubts about the Gulf of Aden. Chapter 1. Doubts about the Gulf of Aden. Attention everyone, we are about to enter the pirate infestation area. First level alert, first level alert. Over. 03 received. 05 received. Received on 08. 12.3 degrees north latitude and 51.1 degrees east longitude. On the Arabian Sea, at the mouth of the Gulf of Aden, about 90 nautical miles northeast of Somalia, a Chinese oil tanker is sailing eastward at a speed of 10 knots. This is a necessary route from the Red Sea to the Arabian Sea. Ahead, we are about to turn southeast and enter the Abdul Quri Strait, which is a narrow and difficult strait. The narrowest point of the waterway is less than 30 nautical miles, making it the easiest place for pirates to roam. In the cockpit, in front of the bridge, Captain Chen Yiming, dressed in a blue sailor's uniform, stood upright in his 50s, holding up a telescope to observe the sea ahead. The weather is very good today, with wind speeds below 3 levels. The visibility on the sea is good, and from a distance, it looks like a blue silk. Chen Yiming's face was calm and he ordered in a deep voice, 25 degrees to the right, move forward 1. He is from Fujian, not tall but very capable, with a bronze-like face, bright eyes, and a sword-like eyebrow on his Chinese face that leaves a deep impression. Chen Yiming served in the military for many years and was an old sailor. After discharge, he was arranged to become the captain of a certain ocean-going group. After more than 20 years of trial and error, he is now an experienced and excellent captain. 25 degrees to the right, move forward 1. The young helmsman Li Zhixian repeated instructions into the intercom with a calm tone. The huge hull slowly turned in a large arc, and the 2 characters, Lufeng, were faintly visible on the hull. This is a medium-sized double-shell new oil tanker with a capacity of 80,000 tons. It was just launched 3 years ago and has very advanced power facilities. However, its tonnage is still relatively small among oil tankers, so it has been a specialized ship for transporting refined oil since its service. This time, the Lufeng ship set sail from Jeddah port, loaded with 20,000 tons of bulk gasoline, 40,000 tons of diesel, and 20,000 tons of heavy oil, to the destination of Dalian port. Originally, after leaving the port, the Lufeng ship should form a fleet near the port of Aden, along with 2 other super-tankers loaded with crude oil from the same company, as well as oil tankers, container ships, and dry bulk carriers from other regions and countries, protected by escort warships dispatched by the European Union, to safely pass through the Gulf of Aden. However, as they were about to arrive in Djibouti, they received instructions from their superiors not to wait for the formation and to go alone to the port of Djibouti, stopping for 8 hours. Due to the rotating rest of the Chinese Navy's escort fleet, the order requires the Lufeng to take a turn and bring several engineers back home. At the same time, a special operations team will be dispatched from the Marine Corps base in Djibouti to escort the ship with the escort of soldiers. Chen Yiming felt relieved and chose this route closer to the coast, without taking another big turn. Standing beside Chen Yiming was Lieutenant Colonel Lin Xiao, the captain of the 1st Squadron of the Special Operations Brigade of the Marine Corps and also the captain of this escort. Lin Xiao was dressed in a black special operations suit, wearing a tactical vest, black combat boots, a black Kevlar helmet with insect-proof goggles on his head, and a pair of half-finger tactical gloves on his hands. After issuing a warning command through the shoulder-mounted explosion-proof intercom, he also raised his binoculars and occasionally observed the sea ahead. The bow deck and sides of the ship's hull, as well as the 8 special operations personnel under Captain Lin, are all fully armed. After receiving the order, under the leadership of each team leader, they quickly arrived at the battlefield and closely monitored the surrounding sea surface. For a junior officer, Lin Xiao is not considered young anymore. After the new year, he will be 30 years old. At the age of 18, he was admitted to a certain infantry academy with high scores. However, after graduation, he was assigned to the Marine Corps. After serving for 2 years, at the age of 20.4, he was selected for the Jiaolong Special Forces with excellent results. After 6 years of trial and error, he grew from a rookie to a top special operations player, spending almost all of his time on training and recharging. Well, he's almost in his 30s, but he hasn't made a big decision yet. His parents are so anxious that they go around and occasionally arrange to introduce him to someone. To be honest, Lin Xiao has also considered the issue of retirement. However, during a casual conversation with the captain, he only tentatively mentioned it and was firmly rejected. Don't even think about it. This Special Operations Soldier King, who once won 2 first and second overall titles in the Special Forces competition of the entire army, exists as the glory of the entire Marine Corps, and of course, is the heart of the captain. Otherwise, it would be so easy for you, just a platoon captain, to wear a major's shoulder badge before the age of 30. This is a peaceful era. Behind Lin Xiao, there were still 2 people standing quietly. One of them is the Special Operations Team Captain, Lieutenant Xiao Kaifeng, who is also fully clothed, holding a 95 assault rifle with a serious expression. Xiao Kaifeng was recruited into the Special Forces team by Lin Xiao 3 years ago and trained by himself. He is his old subordinate. Xiao Kaifeng, 26 years old, is from Beijing. He is handsome, tall but agile, and has top-notch technical and tactical abilities. Moreover, he is very intelligent and has teamed up with Lin Xiao in multiple exercises, cooperating extremely well, making him a trusted comrade in arms. The other person is Li Tao from a certain intelligence agency, whom Lin Xiao just met a day ago. It is said that this is also a deputy director, serving as the temporary leader of the 4 engineers who were taken on board this time. This director Li is not tall and has an average appearance, which cannot be found in the crowd. Apart from talking about work, Li Tao speaks very little, and often has a blank expression on his face. Lin Xiao not only does not know his military rank, but also cannot guess his age. Perhaps his professional instincts overshadowed his nature. Lin Xiao thought to himself. A few hours ago, shortly after boarding the ship, Li Tao met with Captain Chen Yiming. As the escort leader, Lin Xiao also participated in the meeting. Li Tao directly conveyed the orders from his superiors and gave a brief introduction to the situation of his temporary team members. These 4 experts are dispatched by a military industry enterprise to several friendly countries in the Middle East and North Africa, mainly responsible for equipment debugging and maintenance. 2 of them are older and both are veteran military workers. One is Zhou Xiaojia, whose public identity is chemical engineer, and the other is mechanical engineer Chao Jiawan. There are 2 more, but they are young people. One of them is named Sun Lei, 30 years old, and is an electrical engineer. The other one is a communication software engineer, Lu Hua, 26 years old. Surprisingly, this is a young beauty. Women are not uncommon in this field, but there are not many who take on overseas support tasks at such a young age. Recently, the local situation has suddenly become somewhat tense, with more and more signs of chaos. Therefore, the above attaches great importance to the safety of these individuals and has dispatched Li Tao, a big shot, to personally lead the team and escort them along the way. When he was about to board the ship, all of his subordinates had important tasks at hand and left, leaving only him, the bare rod commander, to personally escort him back to his home country. Lin Xiao was a bit puzzled as to why Director Li had to provide such a detailed introduction. These situations, don't they involve confidentiality? However, since Li Tao does not explain, he will not ask, and not ask what should not be asked. This is common sense among soldiers. It wasn't until Li Tao mentioned the second thing that he suddenly realized it. Welcome to Open This Book. This is a refreshing historical military article, and the author strives to make it rigorous yet humorous. We hope it can bring you joy and enjoyment. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Pirates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Pirates. Chapter 2 Pirates. Somalia, about 65 nautical miles northeast of Holdi, the Lufeng is sailing south at a normal speed of 12 knots. Chen Yiming raised his wrist and glanced at his watch. It was 5:35 p.m. in the afternoon. In less than 2 hours, it will be getting dark. Fortunately, we are about to sail out of the Abdul Kuri Strait ahead. After passing this strait, we can turn southeast and away from the coast. At that time, we will be out of the danger zone of Somali pirates, and everyone can breathe a sigh of relief. Although it's still April, the days here are relatively long, so it should be possible to leave the gorge before dark. Report to the captain. Behind Chen Yiming, duty officer Lu Jiaolong, who had been staring at the radar and nautical charts, suddenly exclaimed urgently, "A ship has been found 16 nautical miles ahead." "What's wrong?" Chen Yiming asked in a deep voice. "This ship doesn't seem to be quite right. What is the situation?" Chen Yiming suddenly became alert and turned to ask further questions. It doesn't seem to be moving. I've been staring at it for a while." "Pirates." Lin Xiao on the side heard this sentence and instinctively blurted out the word. "It's possible, but I hope it's broken down." Chen Yiming frowned slightly and then ordered in a low voice, "Keep heading, move forward 3. "Yes, keep heading, move forward 3. Li Zhixian pressed the intercom and repeated the command. 6:20 p.m. In the telescope, the massive figure of a large container ship is black and faintly visible. After the telescope, Chen Yiming's gaze froze. After 10 years of service in the Navy, he worked tirelessly on cargo ships for more than 10 years after retiring. His experience in identifying ship types is extremely rich. In fact, the second thing that Li Tao mentioned during his conversation with them in the morning was about the cargo ship, Longsheng. According to intelligence, this semi-container ship departing from Europe is ostensibly carrying electrical appliances, cables, Western medicine, as well as civilian supplies such as red wine and beef for several companies. However, intelligence sources at headquarters analyzed that this ship is likely involved in a secret arms trade. Therefore, the superior requested him to keep an eye on it and strive to obtain conclusive evidence, so Li Tao arranged for someone to keep an eye on this ship. His people found that when the ship docked in a Middle Eastern country, it unloaded many containers and replaced them with another batch of similar containers. Originally, it was normal to load and unload goods midway, but the unloading location is very sensitive. This action immediately aroused Li Tao's vigilance. This Middle Eastern country is very wealthy and has always had complex relationships with external parties, making it the center of a geopolitical game. The superior was very cautious and asked him to return to his home country first to report the details, and agreed that he would act according to the situation along the way. So, he plans to, if given the opportunity, keep an eye on a key port ahead and see if he can gain anything. Li Chu, Lin team. Chen Yiming lifted his chin and greeted him softly. "Old Chen," Li Tao squinted his eyes and said, "Is this the ship?" As a senior intelligence officer of the Ministry of National Defense, he has been well versed in the recent international situation. Recently, due to the tense border situation between China and a neighboring country in the southwest, this country is likely seeking new channels for large-scale import of advanced weapons due to military pressure. Intelligence shows that a hegemonic power that is already on the verge of action, due to geopolitical considerations, may have secretly colluded with it and is currently completing some preliminary transactions for some reason. In order to cover up the situation, this preliminary transaction is likely to be entrusted to a third party for implementation and to be redirected to Europe for shipment. And this third party, intelligence analysis, is likely to be in a certain region where everyone is a master, except for those who do not obey mainland AG. The ship type is very similar. Old Chen pondered and said. He is very familiar with the cargo ship Longsheng. This is a semi-container ship with a capacity of 50,000 tons, capable of carrying up to 3,000 containers. When mixed with large general cargo, it can also carry up to 2,000 containers. Moreover, its maximum speed can reach 22 knots, making it a 90% new third-generation container ship. There are really pirates. Lin Xiao next to him let out a soft shout. After finishing speaking, he immediately lowered his head and pressed the walkie-talkie on his shoulder to urgently call out, attention all teams, activate the emergency plan, and prepare to drive away the pirates. One team received it, Captain. Second team received it, Captain. 3 groups, Captain. Chen Yiming's heart tightened. He had also seen 3 small black spots appearing on the distant sea surface, and they were gradually getting bigger. Immediately, he also issued an order. Notify the deck department and immediately activate the emergency anti-piracy plan. Yes, activate the emergency anti-piracy plan immediately. The first mate, Lu Jiaolong, loudly replied. After speaking, he ran to the other side of the cockpit and pressed the warning horn button. Woo-woo, woo-woo, woo-woo. The short and low sound of the warning horn immediately spread throughout the ship. Due to the unique design of oil tankers, when fully loaded, the hull is very low and can easily be breached as long as it is approached by pirate ships. Although escorted by troops, Chen Yiming, who had served in the army, still had some vague concerns. Such a large ship, with only about 10 soldiers to protect it, any small mistake is likely to result in casualties. As a captain, every time he goes out to sea, his greatest expectation is to have a smooth journey and safely take all the young people on board home. A personal figure immediately appeared on the deck. At the side of the ship, the second mate Fang Yuchen and the bosun Zhu Taiying led 4 young sailors to quickly rush out of the cabin, busy preparing high-pressure water guns and peace axes. Fang Yuchen, a Guangdong native, is not tall but very sturdy. He has a cute baby face and when he grins, 2 dimples appear. Dalian native Zhu Taiying is a burly man with broad shoulders and a tall figure. Standing like a stone tower, he runs like a gust of wind, and his thick arms are powerful and powerful. On the front and rear main decks, 4 young sailors, wielding various knives and axes, also rushed to the living area floors under the greetings of the third mate Gao Yubao and chef Fan Xiaowei. They patrolled in groups of 2. Young men, don't panic. We have soldiers to protect us. The slightly chubby chef Fan still wore a smiling expression. Everyone, pay attention to safety. Don't get bitten by a stray bullet, that's bad luck. Second Deputy Fang Yuchen is still quite cautious. He is worried that these inexperienced young people may accidentally encounter something unexpected. The Lufeng tanker is a relatively new generation of oil tankers with a high degree of automation, so there are not many crew members, including ship Dr. Yu Jifan, electrician Yang Ming, and chef Fan Xiaowei, with only 20 people. Unfortunately, 1 sailor took wedding leave, another mechanic took personal leave, and 1 sailor fell ill and was hospitalized during this voyage. So, despite the company temporarily assigning 3 interns to the sailor department, there are still only 20 crew members. Everyone was preparing in an orderly manner, but in fact, they didn't panic at all. It was just a practical exercise, and the people in the engine department even held their original positions without leaving the cabin. Because this time, we have special forces to escort us. Huh, inconspicuous pirate, you hit the muzzle of the gun yourself. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Quick to get started. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Quick to get started. Chapter 3. Quick to get started. 3 pirate boats approached at high speed, with a visible speed of around 50 knots. Quickly, the pirate boat circled around the Lufeng ship. More than 20 black people holding long guns were sitting on these 3 speedboats, and a few had already started firing guns. Among them, 2 people were holding RPGs in their hands, grinning and revealing a pair of dense white teeth in the middle of their big mouths. Due to various reasons, the pirates here are rampant. Sometimes, even with the escort of warships, they dare to forcefully approach the fleet and repeatedly seek opportunities. 1 or 2 single cargo ships, in their eyes, are almost like fat and can bite at any time. Even if there are a few soldiers on board, they are not afraid at all. Lin Xiao was about to put down his telescope when suddenly he caught a glimpse of the back of the container ship in the distance, and 2 speedboats turned out. Such a big battle. He frowned and murmured. In recent years, the actions of these Somali pirates have become increasingly planned and organized. Usually, they use modified ordinary civilian ships as their mother ships and cruise in the distant open sea. This type of mother ship is well equipped, with global positioning systems and satellite communication equipment as standard, and a variety of light weapons available. After finding suitable prey, they released speedboats and surrounded the target ship. After confirming that there was no threat, they carried weapons and skillfully boarded the ship, kidnapping hostages and extorting money. They even borrowed the techniques of American espionage agencies, planting spies in the customs departments of port cities such as Dubai and Djibouti in the United Arab Emirates, providing timely intelligence on maritime transportation, and identifying the most suitable prey in advance. The escort has been strict lately, and they haven't succeeded in a long time. I guess they're in a hurry. Li Tao squinted his eyes and suddenly said, "No, Lin team. I see, the number of people is not right." Lin Xiao said lightly. There were only 4 people in total on the 2 speedboats that came from behind. He estimated that perhaps someone had already succeeded and stayed on the ship to guard the hostages. What should I do? Li Tao asked in a low voice, defeat or eliminate? It depends on their own performance. Lin Xiao said in a cruel voice. After speaking, he patted the walkie-talkie and said, "Fire team, pay attention. If you cross the warning line, shoot a warning immediately. Shoot a warning immediately. The firepower team understands. Sniper team attention, keep a close eye on the rocket launcher. If you find any danger, shoot it immediately without reporting it. The sniper team understands. Assault team, pay attention to the defense line. If any ships take advantage of the situation and launch surprise attacks, immediately stop the fire. The assault team understands. 02, you use rocket launchers to center and coordinate. Received, Captain." Xiao Kaifeng, the captain of the Special Operations Team with code 02, responded in a deep voice. 04, go to the crew's living area, protect the engineers, and prohibit any pirates from entering the cabin. Do you understand? I understand. The sniper team observer with code 04, Zhang Chenfeng, answered loudly. Xiao Kaifeng's team has only 9 members in total. In addition to Lin Zhao's natural code 01, Xiao Kaifeng's code 02. The sniper team consists of 2 members, Su Tianshi with code 03 and Zhang Chenfeng with code 04. The firepower team consists of 3 members. 05 Li Hanji, 06 Ya Baman, and 07 Duan Jinghong. The assault team consists of 3 members. 08 Ding Shuai, 09 Lu Xulei, and 10 Zhu Yujia. According to the combat regulations, during missions, everyone uses code names to call each other. Captain Chen, please have someone lower the lifeboat later. After the pirates have driven away, we must immediately forcefully board that cargo ship. Okay, Chen Yiming nodded and replied. According to the Salas Convention, the Lufeng oil tanker is equipped with 2 semi-enclosed motor lifeboats at the stern and outside the crew compartment, 1 on each side. The lifeboats are not small, each can accommodate up to 20 people. The small boat is equipped with a diesel engine, with a maximum speed of 10 knots. Life-saving items such as fresh water and food are daily equipment, and the diesel reserve can ensure a range of 24 hours at a speed of 6 knots. As the circle of the pirate boat became smaller and smaller, around the time of crossing the 1,000-meter warning line, Class 95 of the firepower team opened fire with machine guns. A 5.8 mm bullet, carrying a series of trailing lights, flew over a pirate boat about 10 meters above. According to anti-piracy regulations, this distance is only a warning for evasive shooting. Gaga, gaga. However, the pirates disregarded warnings and launched attacks directly. Among them, on the two speedboats approaching from the front, a pirate stood up unsteadily, with his rocket launcher on his shoulder and ready to aim. Pang. A dull sound came from the upper deck of the Lufeng. In the distance, the pirate leaned back and immediately fell into the sea. The RPG, which had not been fired in time, also fell into the water. Together a shiny shell popped out to the upper right, and after the clicking sound of the guns reset, sniper Su Tianchi released the trigger and immediately aimed at the next target. Throughout the process, his body remained motionless, like a fixed component on the upper deck. Boo boo boo, boo boo boo. Before Su Tianchi could fire his second shot, the sound of a 95 assault rifle could be heard from the side of the ship. The remaining pirates were shot and fell in the cabin, and the speedboat, which had lost control, slowly came to a stop and drifted with the waves. As the roar of Class 95's machine gun rang out, the 6 pirates from the speedboat ahead were also shot one after another. One of them was hit upside down by the tremendous force of machine gun bullets, fell into the sea, and even the small boat itself was hit, spinning in place at sea. Damn it, you're really quick to get started. Su Tianchi murmured softly and immediately turned his gun around, staring through the scope at the back 2 speedboats approaching at high speed. Su Tianchi, a native of Fujian, has a calm personality and is a naturally good hunter. Once, in order to arrest a drug lord, he ambushed in the jungle for 3 days and 3 nights. On the other side, on the opposite side of the oil tanker, Xiao Kaifeng was half kneeling on the deck, staring intently at the speedboat that was sneaking around to the back. There was also a rocket launcher on top, and when he heard sniper shots from there, he immediately shouldered the Type 69 rocket launcher, aimed it, and fired. Boom! A 40 mm rocket with a long tail flame flew out instantly. With a more violent roar, the fuel tank next to the speedboat engine exploded. Instantly, several severed limbs were thrown high, and a blazing flame exploded on the sea surface. In less than 5 minutes, 3 pirate boats were annihilated. Ding Shui and Lu Xulei from the assault team stood up, looked at each other, gave each other thumbs up, and then fired guns to alert them. On the other side, Duan Zhenghong and Zhu Yujia didn't even have a chance to catch up on their guns, and looked at the fast boat that was quickly burning its skeleton with a smirk. Not far away, the 2 speedboats that had not yet got close quickly turned around and ran away. In a twinkling of an eye, they hid behind the container ship, leaving only a white foam. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. All dead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 All dead. Chapter 4. All dead. Release lifeboats and chase after them. Lin Xiaoli immediately ordered. He estimated that the sailors on that large ship were probably already in good or bad luck. There is no helicopter for vertical landing, so we can only use lifeboats to make a hard landing if the hijacking is successful. Somali pirates generally do not kill, but force the crew to sail the cargo ship towards the coast, and then use hostages and the cargo on board to demand ransom. Of course, if the negotiations don't go smoothly, it's usually necessary to kill a few. The trick of killing the chicken and warning the monkey is also very effective for the black millets. If there is fierce resistance during the process, even causing casualties for themselves, they can either use rocket launchers to suppress it, forcefully attack and board the ship, kill all the hostages, and resell the goods on board. Alternatively, there may be occasional situations where a strong attack fails and one has to retreat in disappointment. If there are warships escorting, and the fleet size is not large, most of the time, they can only look and sigh. However, on this busiest waterway in the world, about 50,000 ships of all kinds pass by every year, and the number of ships passing by every day is unknown. There are only a few ships that can join the escort fleet. Considering the cost, most ships always take risks and end up alone. This is their best prey, and they never lack opportunities. Poor are those ocean-going sailors who make a living at sea, because of the rule that civilian ships are not allowed to carry weapons. Every time they encounter these pirates, they face a life and death test like fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Seize those two speedboats, strike back and forth, board quickly, move quickly. Lin Xiao loudly urged his subordinates. Lin team, shall I go together? It could be that ship. Li Tao walked up to him and said softly. As he spoke, he pulled out a Gluck pistol from his waist, skillfully withdrew from the magazine and checked it, then shot it into the magazine and pulled the bolt with a click, reloading the bullet. Okay. Lin Zhao's eyes fixed and he readily agreed. A motorized lifeboat quickly entered the water, and 8 special operations personnel quickly disembarked along the soft ladder, boarded the lifeboat, and the engine started, heading towards the 2 pirate speedboats drifting with the waves. Out of the 10 members of the team, only 2 machine gunners from the firepower team, Li Hanji and Xia Baman, were left on guard. Pop, pop, pop. Pushing 3 pirate corpses into the sea, Ding Shuai checked the swaying hull. Fortunately, several bullet holes are all above the waterline. After giving a thumbs up to the captain, he immediately turned around and sat at the stern of the boat. With a loud bang, he pulled the engine, grabbed the helm, and slammed the accelerator. The speedboat raised its bow and quickly headed towards the lifeboat. This is a fiberglass speedboat with a small hull but equipped with a powerful engine that can reach a maximum speed of nearly 70 km per hour, much faster than the lifeboats on oil tankers on another speedboat. Duan Zhenghong disheartened to find that the small boat was leaking water. There are 2 machine gun bullet holes, and the water flows quickly. The seawater in the cabin has already reached the ankles. He shook his hand at Lin Xiao, who gestured to him to steer the ship back to the tanker and try to recover it. Subsequently, Lin Xiao led Zhang Qinfeng, Zhu Yujia, and Li Tao onto Ding Shuai's speedboat. Xiao Kaifeng stayed on the lifeboat with Lu Xulei and Su Tianshi, and the 2 small boats, one in front and one behind, quickly sailed towards the unlucky cargo ship ahead. Duan Zhenghong tried to pull the engine, and a roar immediately sounded, indicating that the engine was intact. So he drew a dagger from the outside of his calf, cut a piece of sleeve off a pirate corpse, kicked the body off the ship with 1 foot, and then cut the cloth into 2 pieces, twisted them into strips, and blocked the gun hole in the cabin. He slowly refueled the door and carefully navigated the speedboat back to the oil tanker. When the speedboat turned over the container ship at high speed, it found that the 2 pirate boats that had missed the net were running towards the coast at full speed with their heads raised, and were already far beyond range. On the distant sea surface, the figure of a large motorboat is faintly visible. Lin Xiao glanced at Li Tao, who nodded and put away his phone. Along the way, he was filming videos of container ships. Due to his profession, he must try his best to gather evidence and first-hand information on the case at hand. Although the sky had begun to darken, they could all see the 2 traditional Chinese characters on the ship's side. Dragon Rising. What we checked is this ship. Lin Xiao made a gesture to Zhu Yujia and Zhang Qinfeng, gesturing, follow me up. Turning around, he made a covert gesture to Ding Shuai and wished Yujia and Zhang Qinfeng a thumbs up to show understanding. Subsequently, Ding Shuai raised his gun, with the muzzle pointing straight at the side of the ship. Lin Xiao took out a pair of steel claws from his tactical backpack. With a whoosh, the steel claws flew out. With a gentle shake of the rope and a faint sound of nail, the steel claws caught their grip. Immediately, he took a light breath, grabbed the rope with both hands, and jumped into the air. He flipped over cleanly onto the side of the ship, crouched steadily, and quickly operated the gun, with the stock on his shoulder and the muzzle pointing straight ahead. In a moment, he turned his palm into a knife and waved forward, indicating that he could board the ship. Immediately after, Zhu Yujia and Zhang Qinfeng also flipped onto the ship, threw down the rope head, crouched down one by one, and armed themselves with guns to guard. Li Tao's movements on board the ship were equally swift. Zhang Qinfeng gave him a thumbs up, and he smiled. He pulled out his pistol and charged into the passage, chasing after Lin Zhao's assault route. At this moment, Lin Zhao had already burst into the cockpit with a gun. However, what caught his eye were 3 bloody corpses. He felt a chill in his heart, feeling terrible. As soon as he turned around, Li Tao and the others also came in. Check the living area. Lin Zhao looked serious and ordered Zhu Yujia and Zhang Qinfeng. The 2 of them left according to the order. Li Chu, it's estimated that there are no survivors left. Lin Zhao said to Li Tao. Not a single living organism. Li Tao furrowed his brows and said. As a senior intelligence officer, disguised reconnaissance is his strong suit, and in terms of counter-terrorism experience alone, he cannot compare to special operations personnel. To be honest, just on the way, I vaguely heard gunshots and had a bad premonition. Lin Xiaodao. The motor is so noisy that you can hear gunshots. Li Tao said defiantly. In theory, observing words, expressions, and listening to sounds are also his strengths. Why didn't he hear them? Lin Zhao gave a faint smile and didn't answer. He stepped forward to look at the dead body and pointed to one of them, saying, "This person has a problem." Upon hearing this, Li Tao stepped forward. The 3 corpses were all Asian males, one of whom was over 50 years old, and the other 2 appeared to be middle-aged people in their 40s. Strangely, one of the costumes is unique. The other 2 are all wearing crew uniforms. The older one is undoubtedly the captain, while the younger one is probably the duty officer or second officer. But the person Lin Zhao pointed to was wearing a suit, which looked good in terms of material and workmanship. I guess you're on the same page as me. Li Tao immediately understood and smiled. Those who can enter the cockpit in casual clothes are either official representatives or important escorts. Who owns this pool of blood? Lin Zhao squatted on the other side of the cockpit door and observed, where there was a pool of fresh blood. Yes, these 3 corpses have no traces of being dragged. Li Tao also walked over and squatted down. But Lin Zhao crouched down, pulled out the dagger from his leggings, and slowly pried out a bullet from the cabin wall. End of this chapter. Chapter 5 is indeed very cunning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 is indeed very cunning. Chapter 5 is indeed very cunning. This is a pistol bullet. Li Tao looked at the deformed bullet and frowned. Did they encounter resistance? 80% of the time, pirates usually use AK-47s, and those 3 died from rifle bullets. Lin Zhao pointed to the bloodstain and said, "Someone was once shot here, but they were hit by a handgun, and the body is also missing. Well, there probably won't be any survivors." Li Tao furrowed his brows and muttered. A sound of footsteps came, wishing Yu Jia and the others back, followed by Xiao Kaifeng. Their ship is a bit slow and can't catch up with the pirate boat. It just got on board. Captain, there are no living people or bodies found in the living area. Captain, there are more than 10 corpses in the engine room, and there is still body temperature. Zhang Qinfeng's face turned ironclad as he said, "I haven't found a single life, Ma Dan. They're all dead." Lin Zhao and Li Tao exchanged a glance and immediately ordered, "Gather the corpses and notify Captain Chen. Li and I will go back immediately." 02, you stay and command. Yes. Xiao Kaifeng responded, then turned around and left, calling on his brothers to handle the bodies. "Old Chen, I need to use the radio." Li Tao and Lin Zhao returned to the Lufeng ship. Without introducing the situation, Li Tao hastily made a request. The incident occurred suddenly and we need to immediately call headquarters to report the situation. Okay, I'll arrange it right away. Chen Yiming is a knowledgeable person. If you don't say it, he won't ask. Li Tao has his own password, while Lin Xiao and Lao Chen just need to wait for instructions in the cockpit. The headquarters instructed that if there are no technical obstacles, take the ship with you and hand it over to Singapore. In less than half an hour, Li Tao returned from the telecommunications room and said, "We are currently in contact with the shipowner, and both sides will send people to go." Old Chen, what do you think? Li Tao looked at Chen Yiming with an inquiring gaze. The manpower is a bit tight, but it shouldn't be a problem. Chen Yiming pondered for a moment and confidently said, "I will arrange it right away." Okay, Li Tao nodded apologetically and said, "Thank you for your hard work. The immediate priority is to leave the pirate-infested area." Quickly, Lao Chen dispatched the first mate Lu Xiaolong and the second mate Fang Yuchen, as well as the chief engineer Qing Yongxiang and the second engineer Chen Gui, along with 2 sailors and 2 mechanics, totaling 8 crew members, to the Longsheng ship. The chief engineer and others immediately inspected the engine department and found that the equipment was in good condition, so they could fire up and set sail. Lin Xiao accompanied Li Tao over as well. Li Tao wants to take this opportunity to investigate this ship on the road and find evidence. Zhu Yujia and the others have already moved the body of the cockpit, and the blood stains on the floor and cabin walls have also been preliminarily treated. After a busy schedule, it was already 8:30 p.m. The sky has turned dark and the Lufeng ship has surpassed the Longsheng ship, leading at low speed ahead. Can we start now? Xiao Kaifeng asked Lu Xiaolong. The power system is operating normally, the control system is working properly, the satellite navigation is working properly, and the radar is working properly. Lu Xiaolong smiled and nodded, "We can start now." Xiao Kaifeng nodded and Lu Xiaolong ordered loudly, "Set sail." At this moment, Lin Xiao called the second deputy Fang Yuchen to find the packing list and customs declaration. Xiao Fang is very knowledgeable and quickly found it in the driver's cabinet. He handed it over to Lin Xiao from the list. It appears that the Dragon Ascend has returned from Monaco. On the way, the goods that have been loaded and unloaded at Jeddah port in Saudi Arabia mainly include fruits, dried fruits, red wine, and quick-drying cement. The next journey will also stop at Mumbai port in India in sequence, with the main cargo being steel, some chemical equipment, and mechanical equipment in Hong Kong. The main goods are electrical cables, lithium batteries, red wine, cigarettes, etc. Finally, the destination is a certain island and port, with the main cargo being beef, Western medicine, and 2 large power generation units. Xiao Fang, based on your experience, how many containers have this ship loaded? Lin Xiao coughed lightly and asked. About. There are 2,000, right? Fang Yuchen pondered for a moment and replied, with the addition of the lower layer of steel, it seems that the draft is basically full. Li Chu, take a look at this list. How many containers are there in total for these goods? Lin Xiao turned his head and said to Li Tao. Li Tao flipped through the list and roughly calculated, his gaze fixed, and he said, "Over 1,000, right? It's definitely not over 15. The list is not complete." Lin Xiao frowned and said, "Is there really a problem?" Xiao Fang, look again. Based on your experience, where else could the packing list be placed? I've searched all the places I should be looking for, Lin team. This kind of list cannot be left scattered everywhere. Then we can only talk about it when we reach our destination. Li Tao gave a bitter smile and said, "Maybe then, we can put pressure on Singapore Customs to open the box for inspection." Lin Xiao didn't answer, frowning and staring blankly. After a moment, he suddenly turned to the walkie-talkie and said, 10, search and inspect the bodies in the cockpit, especially the man in a suit. Pay close attention to whether there are any documents or evidence." "Okay, Captain." Code 10 Zhu Yujia responded on the radio. In a moment, Zhu Yujia rushed to the cockpit and reported, "Captain, I found it in my underwear pocket. It's really cunning. Li Tao suddenly said, this order is hidden separately. Take the order, unfold it carefully, and the two of them take a look. Good guy. More than 800 containers, all of which are weapons. 200 containers of 5.56 mm bullets, 200 million rounds. 100 containers of 7.62 mm bullets. A total of 80 containers of firearms. 100 containers of Javelin anti-tank missiles, Hummers, artillery, and shells. Bayonets, grenades, TNT explosives, detonators, smokeless powder, lubricating oil, military cans. 260 containers. Lin Zhao's chin was almost falling off. Surprisingly, there are still 100 containers of military uniforms left. Be good, there are only 30,000 units of M16A4. Li Tao, who had seen the big scene, was also surprised and said, Old Mold is really generous. This is the equipment given to 3 whole mountain divisions. 1 week later, at 5.3 north latitude and 91.7 east longitude, on the Indian Ocean surface. Ahead. We're almost at the Strait of Gretel, right? Lin Xiao put down his telescope and asked. There are still over 200 nautical miles left, it's still early. Next to him, the first mate Lu Xiaolong smiled and said, Team Lin, go rest for a while. You can't help with this navigation matter either. Captain, you go rest, Xiao Kaifeng also advised, just have us here. Yes, Captain. Just have Team Xiao and me on duty. Zhu Yujia raised her eyebrows slightly and said with a mischievous smile, you've been too tired these past few days. When you get home, you'll be on vacation to visit your family soon. You still need to save energy for blind dates. If Duan Zhenghong is a joke, then Zhu Yujia can be considered as the top half. He deliberately used the word blind date in a strange tone. Yes, Captain. As soon as Xiao Kaifeng heard Zhu Yujia mention the captain's blind date, he immediately became enthusiastic and said, maybe. You can fall in love at first sight this time, and with one sword, you can bring us a sister.in.law back. It's not that easy. Lin Xiao is also half a joke. He deliberately gave Zhu Yujia a fierce glare, then turned around with a mournful expression, raised his arms high and howled in the sky, wife, where are you? Upon seeing this, Zhu Yujia covered her mouth tightly and bent down. A few people were teasing when suddenly, a huge light appeared in the sky ahead. This light is so strong that it even covers up everything else, it's dazzling and can't see anything clearly. Does my wife step on auspicious clouds and fall from the sky? No, is it a UFO? Lin Xiao, who was still holding up his arms, only had a few question marks in his mind before losing consciousness and falling to the ground. End of this chapter. Where is this in chapter 6? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where is this in chapter 6? Where is this in chapter 6? In a clear dawn, the sea was so calm that it could not stir a single wave. The sea was as quiet as a big mirror. 2 sea vessels float quietly on the calm sea surface. In the distance, by the coast, occasionally 1 or 2 seabirds can be heard chirping. Lin Xiao, who was waking up leisurely, pressed his temples hard and felt a headache. He slowly got up. Turning his head, he saw Fang Yuchen lying beside the driver's bridge, not far behind, with Xiao Kaifeng and Zhu Yujia lying unconscious, both of whom were holding onto the assault rifle tightly. Xiao Fang, wake up, wake up. Lin Xiao, who was already confused, hurriedly woke up Fang Yuchen. Ah! Fang Yuchen opened her eyes and looked bewildered. What's wrong with me? I don't know. Lin Xiao quickly helped Xiao Fang up, and the two of them looked out the window and quickly went to wake up the other two. Why did the ship stop? Where is this? Xiao Kaifeng, who was shaken awake by Lin Xiao, asked foolishly. I don't know, hurry up, go see other people. Lin Xiaola ran up to Xiao Kaifeng, and the two of them rushed out of the cockpit in a panic. 0505, please reply upon receipt, please reply upon receipt. 0606, please reply upon receipt, please reply upon receipt. Looking at the group of mesmerized and stunned people, Lin Xiao quickly called for the team members left on board the Lufeng ship through a walkie-talkie. Fang Yechen has gone to the engine room to inspect the situation. Received at 05, finally, there was a response on the walkie-talkie. Captain, what happened? The specific situation is not clear yet. Please check the personnel's condition immediately. Yes, good. Li Hanji over there was still in a daze, responding in a panic. Lin team, there is no problem with the power of the two ships, they can be restarted. All personnel are clear-headed, but fortunately there is no loss. Lin Xiao and Chen Yiming have already met. However, strangely enough, the navigation malfunctioned. The radio station has not responded, Chen Yiming said with a black line on his face. So strange. Yes, digital nautical charts can be used, but without positioning, it's like being blind when you open your eyes. How about Li and I go ashore to investigate the situation? Looking at the distant coastline, Lin Zhao's hands holding up his binoculars trembled a bit, feeling something was wrong. The sky is too clear, not even a single cloud, it's a bit unreal. The pirate boat sent out has returned soon. Lin Xiao and Li Tao, the leaders, had a grim expression on their faces. The three special operations team members who went with them turned pale, furrowed their brows, and remained silent. Under the continuous questioning of everyone, Li Tao, who was sitting paralyzed in the cockpit, slowly shared their experience of landing. Originally, a group of 5 of them drove a boat to the shore. As far as they could see, behind a beautiful white sand beach on the coast, only a few little black people were running away, but in the distance, there was a row of grass houses. When they chased after them, a group of Westerners with knives and guns, dressed in strange clothes, followed by a group of small black people holding sticks, bare arms, and almost completely naked, shouting loudly and loudly, their knives and guns are really guns. Lin Xiao was stunned and muttered to himself, the gun of the red tassel. Li Tao gave Lin Xiao a worried glance and continued to explain. Originally, the group of foreigners received a message to drive them away and were not allowed to enter the town. However, upon seeing their attire and the rifles in their hands, the other party was also frightened. They should have seen the power of firearms before. Later, a foreign man with the appearance of a leader, holding the only gun, finally bravely stepped forward to ask questions. After struggling to listen for a long time, Li Tao finally realized that the person was speaking Portuguese. That person chattered a lot, and Li Tao listened very hard, finally understanding the words, Turan, occupation, king, unwelcome, and so on. Turan. Chen Yiming exclaimed in shock, Phuket. Turan is an ancient name for Phuket, Thailand. Chen Yiming has been to it many times and knows the name behind it. Everyone present is stunned. Then, everyone was foolish then, no one ate. Of course, no one cooked either. Fan Xiaowei lay with his eyes open all day without saying a word. After a few days, Lin Xiao finally made a decision. To have a meeting. The crew canteen of the Lufeng is a temporary venue. The personnel did not arrive, and 3 of the 4 engineers fell ill. Only Sun Lei, who was mentally ill, came. Dr. Yu was busy taking care of the patients but did not come. Electrician Yang Ming remained silent every day, not speaking, checking the wiring over and over again. Chef Fan is still lying down, ignoring people. These days, several special operations team members took turns cooking meals, but no one had an appetite even after cooking. Lin Xiao looked around the venue, and apart from his team members who had excellent psychological qualities and were relatively calm, most of the others were listless. Those interns are doing well. You are young, with a lively mind and little worries. Even when the sky falls, you don't worry. It is the age when you carry a blanket and venture into the world, and there is a bed in every corner of the world. Everyone. Lin Xiao spoke with difficulty. I think everyone already understands what happened. Lin Xiao smiled bitterly and said with difficulty, we've worn it and come back to ancient times. Let's talk about it, what should we do? Lin team, we. Some people refuse to believe it, can't you really go back? What should my parents do? My mom is going to cry to death. Finally, an intern named Ho Wen couldn't hold his breath anymore, let out a mournful cry, tears streaming down uncontrollably, and someone beside him quickly comforted him. Can't it be a dream? Some people are not yet clear-headed. Captain, which dynasty did we go to? Xiao Kaifeng's question is more reliable, do you have a judgment? Whether we can go back or not. I think it's not something we can decide anymore, as for which dynasty. Lin Xiao let out a sigh and said, that foreigner has a firearm in his hand. I estimate that the era won't be too old. Yes, the scale of the European People's Congress reached Southeast Asia. It was also in the Middle and Late Ming Dynasty at the earliest. Chen Yiming is an expert in maritime history. I think we should go back first before we talk. Zhu Taiying frowned and said, let's go home first and see what's going on. He has also become a family, and whenever he thinks of his wife and children at home, his heart aches immensely. Even if the mountain collapses and the earth cracks. Sun Lei let out a mournful sigh and said, I also want to go back to my hometown. Go back, no matter what the situation is, with so many of us, we can't wait to die. Chen Yiming sighed and said, people, we must face reality. He also has parents, wife, and children, who are equally depressed, but as a captain, he has a responsibility to lead everyone in dealing with crises. Okay, then let's go back to China first. Anyway, let's go back and see. Lin Xiao hammered the sound. Then, he pretended to be relaxed and said, if we happen to return to the Qing dynasty, with the abilities of us 21st century people, perhaps we can still drive out the Tartars, return our country to our homeland, and achieve the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation hundreds of years earlier. Everyone said, right. In the venue, there were finally one or two faint laughter. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Ships. Big ship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Ships. Big ship. Chapter 7 Ships. Big ship. 3 days later, Singapore port. Due to the loss of satellite positioning, navigation could only rely on a compass and sextant, and the navigation path was narrow. Therefore, the speed along the way was very slow, covering 500 nautical miles for 6 or 7 days. Along the way, Lin Xiao, Chen Yiming, Li Tao and others went to visit several patients separately, chatting and comforting one by one, offering kind words of comfort. Later, they held several meetings to determine their identity after returning to China and emphasized confidentiality discipline. Since we have come to ancient times, we naturally have to lie about our origins and the black technology we carry. Otherwise, if you are treated as a monster by the locals, you will have a lot of fun. After discussion, it was unanimously agreed that Lin Xiao, Chen Yiming, and Li Tao were the temporary decision-makers of the entire group, and it was decided that the navigation matters would be under the command of Chen Yiming, and after landing, they would be under the command of Lin Xiao. In case of major issues, everyone would discuss them together. For the past 3 days, veteran intelligence officer Li Tao has been wandering between containers in the cargo hold. He held the packing list and checked the container numbers one by one, searching for those suspicious containers. He knows that these containers were all transferred in Saudi Arabia, so they should all be in the upper positions. After 3 busy days, I sampled and inspected dozens of containers, and sure enough, they were all weapons. Those sets of mechanical equipment are clearly military machinery. On the 3rd day, Li Tao took 2 flat noodles, one long and one short, to the cockpit, and gave Lin Xiao a soft hello. The flat noodles has been pried open. When Li Tao opens it, Lin Xiao looks forward and finds that 5 new M16 automatic rifles are lying inside, each sealed with a plastic bag, and the gun body is covered with butter. Sure enough, it's American goods. Lin Xiao took out a branch and glanced at it, smacking his tongue. Now, it's ours. Li Tao is a cunning spy with the best psychological qualities. Lin Xiao blinked and looked at him in confusion. The intelligence officer who used to have a blank expression is gone, and he feels a bit unfamiliar. In the second flat noodles, there are 2 M2A1 iron ammunition boxes. Open the ammunition box, it is full of yellow bullets. Lin Xiao could see clearly with just one glance, this is a 5.56 mm caliber, ahead, it's the main island of Singapore. Chen Yiming put down his binoculars, looked worried, and sighed, look at that big sailboat, it really has come to ancient times. When fear became a reality, Chen Yiming's heart was still a bit panicked. Upon seeing this, Lin Xiao lightly patted old Chen's shoulder and then raised his telescope. Singapore, formerly known as Temasek, is located at the southern mouth of the Strait of Malacca, adjacent to Malaysia to the north across the Strait of Johor, and facing Sumatra Island in Indonesia across the sea to the south. Its geographical location is very important. Singapore is located in the tropics and has an equatorial rainy climate. The annual and daily temperature differences are very small, with an average temperature between 23 and 34 degrees Celsius. The rainfall is abundant, and often in the afternoon, there is a sudden thunderstorm. The main island has a gentle and undulating terrain, covering an area of about 500 square kilometers with an average elevation of only a dozen meters. The rivers on the island are crisscrossing, and most of them are intercepted and stored for water. The western and central regions are both hilly and mostly covered by forests, while the eastern coastal area is plain. The highest point in geography is Wujijima, which is 163 meters high. In the 14th century, Singapore belonged to the Sultanate of Manchuria. Chinese people have been living here for a long time. In the early Ming Dynasty of the 15th century, Zheng He set up military strongholds and warehouses here, and left behind a group of Ming soldiers, which belonged to an overseas enclave of the Ming Dynasty. Later, in 1613, the Portuguese burned down the Chinese stronghold at the mouth of the river, becoming the first Europeans to enter the South Sea. But they did not deploy troops on a large scale, leaving only commercial establishments and tax collection agencies. It was not until the early 19th century, with the decline of Portugal and the Netherlands, that this place was occupied by Britain as a colony at the port of Temasek. On the dock, a 3-masted horizontal sail gunboat hanging the Dutch tricolour flag is quietly docked. This is a Galen ship called Unicorn, which was the sea hegemon of this era. The captain is 83 meters long, 16 meters wide, with a draft of 6 meters and a double deck. It is said that more than 1,800 oak trees were used during its construction, with a displacement of nearly 1,800 tons and a maximum capacity of over 1,000 tons. The ship is equipped with 84 types of artillery, capable of carrying up to 800 crew members. At present, the Dutch have the most advanced shipbuilding technology. Their gunboats are larger than those of Portugal and Spain, and have a huge advantage over the Aden people who are accustomed to using small boats. Although not comparable to the first-class battleships of Europe in the 19th century, this ship is currently one of the best battleships in the world. Teams of Han Chinese and a few Manchu Turks were unloading goods, and the Turks standing by the ship were all feeling dizzy and oppressed by the bulwarks that were even higher than the city walls. On the stone dock, there are stacks of wooden crates tied with grass ropes. Not far away, a Dutch captain is accompanied by an interpreter, talking to a Chinese leader. This batch of grain needs to be unloaded as soon as possible. The silk and spices will be loaded onto the ship tomorrow, along with fresh water and food replenishment. It must be completed within 2 days. Otherwise, I'll get punished again, understand? Captain Wilnandez spoke arrogantly while looking up at his unicorn. The long tusk above pierces the sky like a swordfish. Yes, it must be completed on time. The leader of the Han people, named Shi Zhaoxiang, was carefully bowing down to respond. Your great Ming is already finished, and the Buddha's machine has also declined. Be honest, from now on, the entire Manchuria will belong to our Netherlands East India Company, do you understand? Fernandez arrogantly scolded. Wilmendez has a completely arrogant capital. In recent decades, the Netherlands has grown into the most powerful maritime hegemon, and the strongholds occupied by the Portuguese and Spanish in the Far East are gradually being eroded by them. I didn't hear an answer. Wilmendez turned his head, but saw Shi Zhaoxiang's mouth wide open, his gaze crossing his shoulders, staring at the distant sea. Ships. Large ships. On the dock, there was a scream of horror. Two large ships are getting closer, their huge hulls pressing towards the shore like small mountains, like black clouds blocking the sky and sun, suffocating. Treasure boat. Is it my treasure boat from Daming? Shi Zhaoxiang abandoned Wilmendez and ran while shouting. At this moment, there was already a scene of black kneeling on the dock. Emperor Daming, have you sent someone again? I can already see the name of the ship clearly, it's Chinese characters. Chinese characters. Daming never forgot about us after all. The kneeling people were crying loudly. Originally, according to the plan, I would return directly to my home country. However, when Lin Xiao saw the large European sailing ship on the dock, he suddenly changed his mind. His idea is simple. Pirate ship. Ma Dan, capture it. Chen Yiming immediately expressed agreement. With a naval background, he has a much richer understanding of maritime history than Lin Xiao. He knew that there had been Chinese settlements in this area for a long time. In the early Ming Dynasty, Zhenghe had also set up military strongholds here. Now, since European warships have appeared, it must be either the end of the Ming Dynasty or the beginning of the Qing Dynasty. In this era, Europeans have never done anything good here. Usually, these bandits use exploration and business as excuses, and in reality, they engage in colonial and pirate activities, even deceiving and robbing, and plundering Eastern wealth on a large scale. At the moment, it was a perfect fit. Not far from the shore, the large ship anchored and the captured pirate speedboat was lowered. 10 Special Operations team members, fully armed, took Li Tao, who knows multiple foreign languages, and boarded 2 speedboats, sailing at high speed towards the dock. Wilmendez was stunned and his mind was in chaos. Is there such a big ship in the world? It's simply blocking the sky and sun. And haven't you seen the sail yet? Is it a devil? Looking at my proud warship again, it was like a little dog curled up pitifully at the feet of a giant. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Who are you? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Who are you? Chapter 8. Who are you? Xiao Kaifeng, along with 5 team members, sailed straight towards the Unicorn. The loading and unloading are underway, and the slings and springboards are still present. Another speedboat quickly docked, but Lin Xiao and Li Tao, along with 5 others, boarded the dock and faced the kneeling crowd. Wilmendez saw the small boat speeding with a roar, his blue eyes filled with doubt and fear, especially when he saw the warship heading straight towards him. He knew it was going to break down. This voyage made a fortune, and he only brought less than 500 crew members with him. Before reaching the crew, he died more than 200 on the way. When he returned, he temporarily hired 50 sailors in Macau, which barely filled another 300 people. In this era, Europeans who were covered in a foul smell set sail, and due to the threat of natural enemies such as hunger, disease, and pirates, the mortality rate of the crew was very high. At the beginning of the 16th century, the Magellan fleet completed its first circumnavigation around the world. When it departed from Spain in September 1519, there were a total of 234 people. When it returned to Spain in September 1522, there were only 18 people left. Now, almost all of his crew members are carefree in the bar on the shore, leaving behind less than 20 people, including chefs and priests. The dozens of cannons on the ship have all become decorations. With only 300 sailors on the road, there is also an undisclosed reason. The bottom hold of the large ship is holding 500 piglets, who were taken over by the officers. The term piglet may not have taken shape yet, but Europeans have made a fortune by selling slaves for a long time. On this voyage, Wilmendez brought a batch of wool and sheepskin, which were all sold to Macau through smuggling channels and brought back to Europe with a large amount of raw silk, porcelain, silk, and spices. In addition, he also received a more important task, which was to go to the Yuan and transport a large amount of gold and silver back to the Dutch East India Company. So much gold and silver, of course, are not self-produced on this agricultural island. He knew, almost certainly, that this came from the plunder of the Manila galleys owned by those despicable Spaniards on the Pacific Channel. In recent years, although the Spaniards have become increasingly unlucky, they still control the wealthiest regions of South America, mining almost endless amounts of gold, silver, and copper, making other emerging forces salivate and itch uncontrollably. Unexpectedly, the Governor-General also gave him an additional batch of piglets in his personal capacity. The governor ordered that these were all Ming army prisoners of war, personally requested by some board of directors in China. The governor also suggested that after the Unicorn returned to Europe, if it had the courage, it could immediately set off to the new continent of South America, sell all these piglets to the newly acquired territory of the company, and go mining or rubber planting. The bounty of slave trafficking was too abundant, and Wilmendez was unable to refuse. Although the journey was long and there were few crew members, he gritted his teeth and still took the risk to take on this business. For this reason, he reluctantly bought a lot less tea and porcelain. In fact, in this era, Europeans had already developed the Pacific route between Asia and the New World of America. However, on the one hand, this is the territory of the Spanish, so even if it is much closer than detouring through Africa or Europe to reach the Americas, few people are willing to take this route. On the other hand, the Pacific Ocean is too large. To cross it, one must travel for over 100 days without any docking or supply points, which is very difficult. In the case of a single ship, it is almost suicidal. Everyone, get up and call your leaders. On the dock, Lin Xiao, fully armed, was speaking to a group of people kneeling. I am the descendant of 100 households in the city gate of Manchuria, under the jurisdiction of the Daming Old Port Propaganda and Comfort Bureau. Shi Zhaoxiang took a few steps and bowed. Excuse me, are you the envoy of the Ming Dynasty? Lin Xiao glanced at Shi Zhaoxiang. This is a young man in his 20s, not tall but very sturdy. He has a simple and honest appearance with a hint of shrewdness, and his face is black with a hint of red. It looks like he is someone who runs around the dock all year round. You tell them all to get up and we'll talk alone. Yes. Shi Zhaoxiang respectfully responded and turned around, shouting loudly, you all get up and wait on the side. The great Ming envoy has arrived, so everyone doesn't have to be afraid in the future. Despite the strange attire of the newcomer, Shi Zhaoxiang still hoped from the bottom of his heart that he was the great Ming envoy who came to support him. The Chinese here are living. It's really too hard. Since Zheng He stopped sailing to the west, soon after, the old port of Sanfoki was occupied by the Manchu Boyi. Even Shi Erji, the former governor of the old port, was driven to a place called Shinsuan in Java. It has been 200 years since then, and the great Ming envoy has never been seen again. The whole of Sumatra, as well as Manchuria, were occupied by barbarians, and many Chinese had to flee to their final gathering place in Temasek, relying on the city gates and warehouses built by Zheng He here to fight against the Sultan of Johor. After being conquered and recaptured several times, it was not until more than 30 years ago that the Western Buddhist people captured Temasek with firearms, destroyed the city gates, took over the port, and left people to manage it, driving the Chinese and local people to work as laborers, allowing them to survive on their own. As an administrative institution, Temasek House no longer exists. However, throughout history, the local Chinese have elected descendants of the Shi family as their leaders, until Shi Zhaoxiang was passed down for 7 or 8 generations. However, his subordinates have long lost their military households, and he can only be considered as an overseas Chinese leader. Shi Zhaoxiang had never seen the envoys of the Ming Dynasty, and only learned a few words about the situation in the Ming Dynasty from merchant ships and refugees. "Lord Shi, are your family's 100 household seals still there?" Lin Xiao knew that the military households of the Ming Dynasty were hereditary. Although never appointed, the official seal has still been passed down. "May I ask Lord Shi, what year is tonight?" "This should be on March 18th, the 23rd year of the Chongzhen reign." Shi Zhaoxiang's back is sweating. "Why are you asking this? Don't you know? However, I have heard that the intruder has committed a rebellion, and your majesty has already passed away." He wiped the sweat off his forehead and said, "So, my humble position doesn't know the reign title of the Holy One today." Lin Xiao was dumbfounded at the words. In the 17th year of the Chongzhen reign, the emperor hanged himself. Where did the 23rd year come from? At present, which emperor of the southern Ming dynasty is still struggling to support him? Unable to turn his mind for a moment, Lin Xiao intentionally diverted the topic. "Lord Shi, to be honest, I am not a messenger of the Ming dynasty, but a remnant of the Song dynasty from the previous dynasty. Back then, my ancestors traveled far to the west and drifted to the outer sea of the sky, thousands of miles away. By chance, they created a new type of firearm, but it was envied by a strong neighbor who was 100 times more numerous than me and was exterminated. Now, we and the rest of us have escaped by chance, and because we have no place to stand a cone, we want to bring new firearms and return to our homeland to serve. Passing by this place today, I was shocked to see my fellow countrymen being oppressed overseas and marveled at the hardships of making a living. I am willing to help my fellow countrymen. What do you think?" Shi Zhaoxiang looked at Lin Xiao with a gloomy expression on his face. After a while, he became furious and said, "Is it possible that your esteemed guest is here to entertain me? Master Shi, please be calm and not impatient." Lin Xiao smiled and waved his hand, "Don't be fooled by the small number of us. Those foreign barbarians seem fierce, but in my opinion, they are just local chickens, tiles, and dogs. If the adult nods, we can extinguish this tusk in a blink of an eye." Will it disappear in the blink of an eye?" Shi Zhaoxiang's face was full of astonishment, and before he could react, he heard the screams and curses of Wilmendez in his ear. "Who are you? Dare to take my boat?" Wilmendez finally reacted and pulled out his waist gun and sword, drinking high and rushing towards the dock. In the distance behind, there was a commotion, and a team of several hundred people rushed out of the street fortress. At the front were musketeers, while at the back were even more, wielding sharp swords and short swords, shouting incessantly. However, it was Wilder's men who came upon hearing the wind. Lin Xiaoding stared at the newcomer with a calm and gentle expression on his face. Behind him, 3 special operations team members stood up like javelins, motionless. "We are Han Chinese, but who are you?" Li Tao's anger surged upon seeing the situation and he shouted loudly. "Are you Han Chinese? Aren't you afraid of the guns and cannons of our brave warriors in the Republic of Netherlands?" Will Nans raised his short spear in his hand. His team arrived in the blink of an eye, and he regained his composure. "Netherlanders. Did you come from a high-ranking official?" Lin Xiao shouted in a gruesome voice, "For over 20 years, you have been stealing and plundering, and many Ming people have been brutally slaughtered by you." Unable to recall the reign title of the emperor, Lin Xiao knew about the history of Dutch occupation of Taiwan. Welcome everyone to watch. Welcome to comment. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Killing without amnesty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 10. Training. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Training. Chapter 10 Training. As time passed, everyone's emotions gradually calmed down, and their mood became increasingly optimistic. They were also able to discuss some topics calmly. Since time travel has become a fact, whether you want it or not, the painful period will always pass, and everyone must face it calmly. No matter where you are in time and space, you have to find something to do. You can't just mess around and wait to die, right? There are several books in Chen Yiming's cabin, and one of them happens to be about the history of world navigation. With the help of his research, everyone now knows the specific time. This year is 1650 AD, and the specific date. According to Shi Zhaoxiang, it should be the 8th day of the 4th lunar month. If according to the Chinese Ming calendar, it is the 4th year of the Yongli era, and according to the Manchu Qin calendar, it is the 7th year of the Xuanji era. The domestic situation was chaotic, and after the Qin dynasty captured Nanjing, it had once again launched a large-scale southward invasion. Ming army officials from all over surrendered, and the small court of the southern Ming dynasty was on the verge of collapse. Through historical data, it is found that the Yongli Emperor Zhu Yulang was relatively clear and bright. Unfortunately, there were disputes and power struggles among the civil and military factions, and the actual control of the southern Ming forces was limited to most of Guangxi and western Guangdong. The remnants of Zheng Qinggong in the coastal areas of Fujian were basically in a semi-independent state. Interestingly, there were two civilian armed groups still engaged in lively battles with the Qin army. The Kuidong 13 families, rebel army, led by Li Guo, Gao Bijing, Li Lieheng, and others, consisting of the remaining troops of the Chuang Wang Dashun army, is persisting in the resistance against the Qin dynasty in the mountainous areas of eastern Sichuan and western Hubei. The other was led by Sun Kawang, Li Dinghua, etc. Zhang Xianzhong's remaining troops in the west, who retreated from Sichuan to the Yunnan, Guizhou plateau to fight against the Ming army and block the Qin army. If we appear as the third anti-Qin volunteer army, will there be an opportunity to rewrite history? At a meeting, Lin Xiao proposed. How do you want to rewrite it? The seasoned Chen Yiming thought further. It's not a problem to drive away the Qin army, but what about restoring the Ming dynasty or creating a new regime on his own? Yeah, why didn't I think of this level? I was only focused on expelling the Tartars. Lin Xiao laughed and self-deprecatingly said, this question really needs to be discussed clearly. Let's all talk about it, right? Indeed, there was a reason why the Ming dynasty fell to this point. Engineer Cao Jiawen first spoke. On the one hand, the descendants of the Zhu family were flourishing and had a large population, occupying land and enfeoffment of kings everywhere, causing widespread land consolidation. On the other hand, the aristocrats and gentry bullied the good, assisting the tyrants in their tyranny, leaving the national treasury empty and the people struggling to make a living. Qiao Gong is a talented person who deeply analyzes the reasons for Ming's death. It can be said that the entire ruling class is completely rotten. Even if such a court resumes its rule, what is the difference between it and the Qin dynasty? Since that's the case, I think it's better to fight both sides together, not only to defeat the Qin army but also to easily annihilate the southern Ming. Young Sun Lei interjected, let's simply establish a new China according to the modern system, and then China will not be far ahead of the world and enter modernization more than 300 years ahead of schedule, duh. Speaking of which, he himself was amused and burst into laughter, and everyone burst into music. Ideals are indeed very abundant, but the people of this era may not understand or accept the new system. If the work of unifying the masses is not done well, there will be big trouble. If the whole society sees us as invading barbarians, wouldn't we become targets of criticism? Zhou Xiaojie is also an outgoing person, speaking very frankly. In my opinion, there is too much resistance to doing so, and the timing is not yet mature. I think what Zhou Gong said is also reasonable. Otherwise, how about this? Let's not make a decision for now, take a step by step, and divide the situation after returning to China into 2 stages. Chen Yiming said with a bright eye, in the first stage, we should try to unite as many people as possible who can be used by the southern Ming Dynasty and help them recover the rivers and mountains through cooperation. In this way, we can also become famous and not be easily obstructed by various sectors of society. At the second stage, let's make a choice again. If the southern Ming Dynasty can eliminate corrupt policies and empathize with the people, we will coexist peacefully. If they are stubborn and still enthusiastic about corruption and party struggles, then we will continue to work tirelessly, seize the throne, and be independent. Before he could finish speaking, Sun Lei stood up excitedly and clapped his hands vigorously. Everyone applauded and expressed agreement. Chen Yiming pressed down with both hands and continued, however, there is a question that I think everyone should take seriously. Therefore, I propose it for everyone to discuss. As the saying goes, the heart is divided by the belly. Nowadays, everyone has the same idea and is very united. However, who can guarantee that there will be no conflicts in the future? After all, we also have more than 30 people, and there will definitely be many people who will take charge and lead the party alone. If someone cannot obey the overall situation and act recklessly, then everyone will not be able to unite. Or, some people cannot be strict with themselves and leak secrets. Even if some people are driven by greed and embark on a path of mutual separatism, it will definitely cause internal turmoil and cause great trouble. If that's the case, I think it's better not to go back seeing everyone silent. Chen Yiming looked around and cleared his throat. Therefore, no matter what we do in the future or what situation we face, we must first unify our thoughts and actions internally. Of course, it is best to first establish a team and adhere to the principles of collective leadership and division of labor and cooperation. As a result, Chen Yiming's proposal received unanimous response from everyone. So, after discussion, it was officially determined that Lin Xiao, Li Tao, and Chen Yiming were the highest leadership group. The 3-people team. Among them, Lin Xiao is specifically responsible for military struggle work, Chen Yiming is specifically responsible for economic and logistical work, and Li Tao is specifically responsible for civil affairs and security work. In addition, any difficult to determine major political policies will be decided through consultation at the National Assembly. After determining the matter, according to the principle of the minority obeying the majority, any individual, whether in favor or with reservations, must obey leadership and distribution. Is this probably considered as a democratic collection or a central system? Lin Xiao thought to himself. Spike. Stab. Kill, step up. Stab. Kill, prevent left. Stab, kill, prevent right. Stab, kill, prevent down. Stab, kill, defend left. Side attack, kill, defend left. Magazine strike, kill. 1 month later, on the 8th day of May. On the campus next to the military stronghold, Duan Zhenghong shouted out the assassination order in a hoarse voice. In front of him, 100 new recruits lined up in 4 rows, practicing their assassination moves over and over again under his command. You need to shoot quickly, lean forward, and maintain a stable center of gravity. Your arms are too wide apart, you don't have the strength to shoot. You need to rotate, step out, and shoot out at the same time, without being disconnected. Duan Zhenghong occasionally corrected the movements of the soldiers. Kill, kill, kill. The new recruits are tired and happy, full of momentum. Kill, kill, kill. Shi Zhaoxiang, who personally participated in the training, was also assigned to this group. His already dark face was flushed with sweat, and he meticulously repeated his assassination moves. Every time he thrust, he would do his best to shout loudly. After a month and a half of practice, Shi Zhaoxiang's grades in all subjects are high, and Duan Zhenghong is very satisfied with him. This chapter has been modified. End of this chapter.